Idiotic characters might not be the smartest in the room, but you still want them to win. From Sheen to Kronk to Poe, some of animation's most unforgettable characters are complete idiots. Yet they're written with some secret ingredients that make you love them. But for every lovable fool, there's a loud, try-hard joke machine that makes you want to skip the scene. So, what's the difference? What makes one idiot lovable and another annoying? Creating a lovable idiot can be extremely tough. The problem usually starts with identifying the exact elements that make an idiot either lovable or hated. Do you remember that dinner scene where Yzma told Kronk to get Kuzco the drink they've poisoned? Well, Kronk's response to that is something many of us might have seen before, especially from a goofball we were doing something mischievous with.
The Emperor a drink.
Drink. Right.
It's funny and idiotic, but we get a sign that Kronk is not a mean guy, and he's definitely not a killer. In fact, we soon find out that his mind is on something way more important to him than a secret assassination. That is his cooking. This is why when he realizes his spinach puffs are burning, he rushes to the kitchen to save them, leaving the poison and the drinks behind.
Is something burning?
My spinach puffs!
When he finally comes back, he's totally flustered. He's mixed up the cups and forgotten which one is which, so he just starts pouring everything together. He lies that the drinks are a bit on the warm side and talks about the sky being blue, all in an attempt to buy himself time. He's doing everything he can to avoid the scary task he was given because he knows he's made a mess of things. When it finally comes time for the toast, Kronk tries one last thing. As Yzma raises her glass, he starts coughing loudly, trying to make sure his boss doesn't accidentally kill herself because he's a clumsy idiot. But Kuzco doesn't hear a thing and drinks the poison in one gulp. Yzma is thrilled because she thinks she has finally won, and Kronk, being Kronk, tells her the drinks were so easy to make that he'll get her the recipe later. But then, things get weird. Kuzco's ears grow long and pointy, his neck stretches out, and his nose turns into a snout. Suddenly, the Emperor is a llama, and Yzma is furious. She checks the label on the bottle and screams that it wasn't poison, but an extract of llama, and Kronk's response is hilarious.
You know, in my defense, your poisons all look alike. You might think about relaying some of them.
But even when Yzma tells him to go finish the job, all he can think about is whether they can have dessert and coffee first. He might be annoying to Yzma, but scenes like this are why Kronk is a lovable idiot. He doesn't have a mean bone in his body. His idiocy comes from the fact that he values his hobbies and being a good host more than being a villain. He isn't a bad guy. The dude is just a golden retriever who ended up working for a wolf. We love him because even in the middle of a crime, he's worried about his spinach puffs. Now, let's look at a very different kind of character. Have you ever seen the way Scrappy Doo behaves? He's a complete idiot, sure, but is he one we love? In the 2002 Scooby-Doo movie, there is a scene that shows exactly why he is the opposite of Kronk. Scrappy is jumping around and acting like a tough guy. He is obsessed with puppy power and wants to fight ghosts, even though Fred tells him that ghosts aren't real.
Ghosts don't stand a chance with me. Let me at him. Oh.
Then, Scrappy does something that is impossible to like. He decides to mark his territory by peeing right on Daphne. It's gross and rude. When the gang gets angry, Scrappy doesn't apologize. Instead, he gets arrogant. He tells them they're losers and demands that they make him their unquestioned leader, or else he's quitting. He even tells Fred he doesn't have the guts for the job. The gang doesn't even argue. They just look at each other and toss him out of the van onto the road. But the characters in the movie are not the only ones who dislike his guts. Even most fans at home do too, and they have since 1979 when he was first introduced to the Scooby-Doo franchise. This is because while Kronk is humble and kind, Scrappy is a pompous little guy who talks a big game but just causes problems for everyone else. He doesn't listen, he's reckless, and he constantly leads his friends into traps. This is why many people hate his idiocy. But while we've identified who a lovable idiot is from who isn't, we haven't really pointed out what made them so. At least, not exactly. And this is because we think SpongeBob and Patrick Star would do a better job at this. They show us the very first ingredient that makes an idiot adorable. In 1999, SpongeBob SquarePants was released to mass appeal. It was loved for being extremely entertaining, especially because it had idiots whom we loved. When you think about episodes like the Patrick Smartpants of Season 4, you would understand what we mean. Earlier in the episode, SpongeBob and Patrick were doing what they always did, running through jellyfish fields, laughing, poking each other, and not watching where they were going. Then Patrick crashed straight through a warning sign and fell off a cliff. When SpongeBob tries to help him put it back on, he accidentally grabs a piece of brain coral and plugs it into Patrick's neck.
Buddy, here's your head.
Suddenly, Patrick isn't an idiot anymore. He starts using huge words like illogical and hypothesis. He starts drawing complicated science diagrams instead of just chasing jellyfish. He even becomes a master of the clarinet. But then something sad happens. Because Patrick is now a super genius, he realizes he doesn't have anything in common with SpongeBob anymore.
We've just grown apart.
What?
We're just not compatible anymore.
SpongeBob is left alone, crying his eyes out after losing his best friend to a bunch of books and big words. But Patrick sits alone too in his rock, surrounded by knowledge, yet he feels empty. He realizes that being the smartest guy in the ocean is lonely if you don't have anyone to share a laugh with. So he did something very Patrick. He kidnapped SpongeBob in a jellyfish net and forced him to show him what fun looks like.
You're kidnapping me?
We are going to have fun.
They slid down hills, crashed, and swallowed sand. Then Patrick finally asked, when did the fun go away? That question led them back to the cliff. When they realized that Patrick's old head had been replaced by brain coral, the choice became clear. Patrick could stay smart, he could keep the praise, the words, or he could go back to being himself. Not clever or impressive, but real. And that led to this famous line.
Knowledge can never replace friendship. I prefer to be an idiot.
Patrick chose SpongeBob, and it makes all the sense in the world. This is because a character without heart, without the people he or she loves and cares about, can be forgotten. The same thing applies to an idiot. They cannot be loved until they have heart. Patrick and SpongeBob do, and that's why we couldn't get enough of them for a long time. Patrick cares deeply and protects SpongeBob. He travels across oceans for him, he gets sad when they're apart, and he wants his friends to be happy, even when he messes up. His mistakes come from confusion and stupidity, yes, but at the end of the day, his heart makes him lovable. SpongeBob is the same way. He might fail his driving test 100 times and struggle with basic logic, but he has incredibly high emotional intelligence. He knows exactly when someone needs a hug, a kind word, or a Krabby Patty. When you write a character like this, their heart has to be bigger than their brain. If the audience sees that the character truly cares, they will forgive almost any amount of silliness. But what happens when you have the idiot part without the heart? Well, then you get the Boov from the movie Home. Now, don't get me wrong, the Boov are not so horrible, and the fact that they change colors based on their feelings is actually pretty cool. But for most of the movie, they are actually kind of annoying. Why? Because their entire culture is built on being cowards. They don't care about anyone else. They just run away from every problem they face. While SpongeBob and Patrick are lovable because they would do anything for each other, the Boov start out by running away from every problem and leaving everyone else to suffer. They mispronounce words in a way that feels like they're trying too hard to be funny, and they have no connections to their neighbors. It's only the main character, O, who is lovable because he always wanted to create that connection with the Boov around him. Also, his arc of developing a heart and learning to care about his human friend Tip equally hits the mark for a lovable idiot, whereas the rest of the Boov take way too long to show they have any feelings at all. So the lesson is pretty clear here. One of the ways to make an idiot lovable is to give them heart. But to make them truly unforgettable, you need to add this next thing that can easily get complicated if not done right. Po from Kung Fu Panda is the ultimate goofball. From his first appearance in Kung Fu Panda, we meet a guy who is actually an idiot. However, we grow to love him because he has that heart we spoke about earlier. But even better, he also has a trait that makes every foolish character even more lovable. You see, when Po was first introduced, we met a guy who wished he knew Kung Fu and was fighting alongside the Furious Five. The very first thing the movie shows us is Po inside his own head. He is a masked warrior walking into danger like it's nothing. Bandits surround him, but he does not panic. He finishes his food first, then he launches into a fight that feels amazing. He kicks enemies into the air, sends whole armies flying, and even the Furious Five stand beside him like equals. At this moment, Po is perfect. He is brave, skilled, and respected. Then he hits the floor.
Get up! You'll be late for work!
The dream snaps, and we see the truth. Po is not a warrior. He is a big panda in a small room filled with posters and toys. He talks to action figures, trips on his own feet, and when he tries to get up, he fails because his belly gets in the way. Right away, the movie tells us who Po really is, a child in a grown body. Someone who lives in dreams because real life feels too small. Po would go on to do some more idiotic but funny things, but everything will lead up to that moment where we find out what makes him truly special. For now, he tries to pull a heavy noodle cart up 1,000 steps, even though it nearly crushes him. He stares at the arena like a kid outside a candy store window. He sneaks, peeks, and gets knocked down over and over. At one point, he actually tries to launch himself into the sky by sitting on fireworks, and it goes exactly as badly as you think it will. But here's the part that matters. Po never stops caring. Even while dreaming of Kung Fu, he still shows up for his dad. He lies about dreaming of noodles to protect his father's feelings. He does his job. He feeds customers. He wants people to be happy when they eat at the shop. Po wants meaning, to belong to something that feels true to him. That is why he keeps climbing the stairs. And that is why he keeps getting back up after every fall. Then, the story does something very smart. It gives Po a purpose. When he crashes into the arena and lands right in front of everyone, it looks like a joke. Even Po thinks it's a mistake when Oogway points at him as the new Dragon Warrior.
What are you pointing?
Shifu is furious, Tigress is confused, and the crowd is shocked. For a moment, the audience is right there with them because this all feels wrong. Until Oogway says that there are no accidents. It still feels like a joke though. However, as we go through Po's journey, it all starts to make sense. His heart, his effort, his care, all of it suddenly has a direction. That is why Po works. His foolishness, which was already boasting of heart, was made even more lovable by his newfound purpose. Oogway pointing at him like that is basically telling everyone that to make an idiot more liked, give them a purpose. It's that simple. But as Mater shows us in Cars 2, not all idiots deserve a purpose. At least, not the kind the car was given. And to make matters worse, the creators did more than give Mater a purpose. They also did something which completely ruined the character we had liked in the first movie. In the first Cars, Mater was the perfect sidekick. He was a rusty, silly tow truck who taught Lightning McQueen that there's more to life than winning trophies. His idiocy worked because he was a supporting character, a lovable goofball who added flavor to the world. But when Cars 2 rolled around, the creators did something that felt totally forced. They sidelined Lightning McQueen, the actual star of the show, and pushed Mater into a lead role as a world-class secret agent. On paper, that sounded fair. A lovable idiot should still matter. We saw that work beautifully with Po. But with Mater, the purpose felt pushed onto him instead of growing out of who he already was. Suddenly, the truck who didn't know what a fresco was in the first movie was accidentally uncovering a massive criminal conspiracy that the best spies in the world couldn't solve.
The second time, not the first!
Deploying shield.
he was being smart in a way that didn't make sense for his character. It felt like the movie was trying too hard to make him important by giving him powers he hadn't earned. The big takeaway here is that giving an idiotic character a unique gift or a superpower is a brilliant idea, but it has to be reasonable. It has to fit who they are. If the idiot suddenly becomes the smartest person in the room for no reason, the audience stops believing in them. However, if you give them a special skill that matches their personality, they become one of the most reliable and lovable people on the team. That is why Bolin works. In The Legend of Korra, Bolin was never framed as the smartest person in the room. He cracked jokes at the wrong time. He trusted people too easily, and he made bad calls, especially with authority figures. But from his appearances in the pro-bending arena, the show made one thing clear. When things turned physical, Bolin delivered.
This is unbelievable!
Because Bolin spent years fighting in a boxing-style arena, his earthbending isn't stiff or slow like the traditional masters. He is light on his feet, throwing quick, precise rocks like a professional athlete. Later in the series, he discovers a rare gift, lava bending. In a terrifying scene where the team is trapped by a wall of molten lava, Bolin doesn't suddenly become a scientist to save them. Instead, his go-with-the-flow personality allows him to connect with the fluid nature of the lava. Basically, we tolerate his silly choices because when the team is in a fight, Bolin is the muscle. He's the one you want standing next to you when things get dangerous, because his gift is a natural part of his journey. The same logic applies to Sheen in Jimmy Neutron. Sheen is an absolute chaos magnet. He's obsessed with an action figure named Ultra Lord and has the attention span of a squirrel on caffeine. But Sheen has a very specific, unique talent. He is a master of improvisation and acting. Because Sheen is already a bit out there, his ability to act out different roles or use his terrible singing voice to defeat aliens actually makes sense. In the Attack of the Twonkies episode, the aliens mutate when they hear music, but Sheen's singing is so famously bad and off-key that it's the only thing that can stop them. Sheen never solved problems by suddenly becoming smarter than Jimmy, but by being Sheen at full volume. That distinction mattered. Mater crossed that line. Instead of letting his existing traits solve small parts of the problem, the film asked him to solve everything. His clumsiness didn't delay the villains. His friendliness didn't expose them, and his honesty didn't force a slip. The story gave him technical insight, sharp memory, and logical leaps that didn't belong to him before. And because of that, the lovable idiot stopped being lovable. These characters show us that an idiot doesn't have to be a burden. When they have a unique skill, whether it's bending lava or weaponizing a bad singing voice, they gain a purpose that feels real. We love them because they are still the same silly people we met at the start. But they have that one ace up their sleeve that saves the day. But while you need heart, purpose, and unique qualities to write lovable idiots, this video shows us that writing a villain that isn't boring needs some special ingredients that most people don't know about. So go find them out now.